It was the 90s, and my classmates treated me like I was an outcast. One kid in particular loved to mock me for being different. But that's not where the story ends. No, it's where the sweet, perfect revenge begins. What I did to him changed his life forever. Stick around, because this one's personal, and oh, it's satisfying. Before we dive in, if you've ever dreamed of making someone regret crossing you, hit that like button and subscribe. You're about to hear one of the most legendary revenge stories ever told. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. It was the early 90s, long before the internet connected us all. For most of my teenage years, my world revolved around a small group of friends, my computer, and the games we couldn't always get our hands on. In a time when floppy disks were our lifeline, having a solid game library was a goldmine. But getting those games, that was a different story. I remember it clearly. My best friend and I were part of the few who had a computer. And as weird as it sounds now, we were the lucky ones. We traded games from overseas, meticulously copying each game's protection so we could share them affordably. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. But then, a new kid showed up. His name was Greg, and he came from a well-off family. The kid seemed quiet, a little too polished for our humble, geeky crew. But Greg had one thing we didn't: access to a treasure trove of games. His uncle, apparently, owned a huge collection that we couldn't even dream of. And, like the naive idiots we were, we thought, what's the harm? We made him an offer he couldn't refuse. We'll give you our games, and you copy them for us. At first, it felt like a win-win. We handed over The Settlers, Doom 2, Monkey Island, and more, games we'd been dying to play but couldn't afford. We were so eager to get these titles into our collection, we didn't even hesitate. Greg seemed more than happy to take our originals in exchange for copies of what he had. The first few trades went smoothly, but it didn't take long for the cracks to show. The games came back corrupted. Files were missing. Copy protection was non-existent. It wasn't just frustrating, it felt like we were being played. And it only got worse from there. Greg started returning the games in worse and worse condition. Scratched discs, corrupted files, incomplete copies. It was as if he didn't care at all. I remember one day, I opened up a copy of Monkey Island that he returned and found it was just a blank disc. I was furious, but it wasn't just the broken games. It was the fact that Greg had our best titles, and we had nothing to show for it. What really got under my skin was that Greg knew exactly what he was doing. It wasn't an accident. He was taking advantage of us. And then, things went from bad to worse. One afternoon, I overheard Greg mocking me in the hallway. "What's up with you, man? You actually like that gay singer, Freddie Mercury." He made sure his friends heard it, laughing, snickering like it was some kind of joke. My face burned with embarrassment, not just because of what he said, but because of the way he said it. His words felt like a blade, carving through the years of self-doubt I had fought to overcome. I wasn't just a geek to him. I was someone lesser, someone to be ridiculed. And that was the moment when the idea hit me. I was done being his punching bag. Things escalated when our class was asked to attend an AIDS awareness event organized by a local foundation. It was a weird time, the early 90s, right after Freddie Mercury's death. Everyone was talking about it, and I couldn't help but feel a strange connection to his story. Greg, being the conservative, homophobic kid that he was clearly uncomfortable at the event. He would roll his eyes, sneer, and complain loudly whenever anything remotely related to homosexuality came up. He wasn't just ignorant, he was nasty about it. But that's when the plan started to form. At the event, they handed out flyers on AIDS awareness and safe sex, along with free condoms stamped with the foundation's logo. I grabbed a few, mostly out of curiosity, but my friend and I realized we could use these for something much more creative. We had a computer, an inkjet printer, and the perfect idea. The moment we got back to my house, we sat down, fueled by a mix of adrenaline and anger, and began to craft the most devious piece of mail you could imagine. We printed out a letter, one that looked exactly like it came from the AIDS Foundation. We even copied their logo to perfection. The letter read something like this: "Dear, first name, thank you for your letter. We understand it's difficult being open about your feelings, especially after the event you attended with your class. Please find enclosed a flyer that answers many of your questions, along with some condoms. Please practice safe sex at all times." And then, We included the flyers from the event and a few of the condoms. But the real beauty of our plan, we addressed the letter to Greg, but used his last name, knowing his father would be the one to open it. When that envelope was sealed and sent off, I felt a rush of satisfaction. We'd done it, but I had no idea the kind of storm we were about to unleash. The next day, Greg's face was as pale as a ghost. I could see his eyes darting around, looking terrified. He knew something was wrong, but I don't think he truly understood until he got home. That afternoon, word got out that Greg's father had found the letter. According to the whispers that spread through the school, his mother had been in tears, screaming in panic. His father had grounded him for weeks, convinced their son was hiding something they couldn't even begin to understand. I could hardly contain my laughter as I watched Greg's reaction. At first, he thought it was a joke, a prank by some other classmates. But as the days wore on, he started to piece it together. And when he finally did, his face was pure rage. He came after us, of course, but by then, the damage was done. We were called to the principal's office, and there, in front of the principal and Greg's furious parents, we finally confessed. The guilt and satisfaction in that moment were complicated, but we had won. Greg was humiliated, his reputation shredded. And in a strange way, I felt like I'd finally been heard. Looking back, it feels like it was more than just revenge. It was about taking back control, standing up for myself, and showing that I wasn't going to be anyone's punching bag. Sure, it was childish, but sometimes justice tastes sweetest when it's a little bit mischievous. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell us in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that'll have you laughing, cringing, and cheering for justice.